And welcome to another edition of Cataracts Digest, folks. I'm Cataracts broadcaster George Scott. Special edition. Today we've got one of the better-known names in senior hockey in Newfoundland and Labrador, Terry Ryan, joining us. Terry, thanks for taking the time just before your game today to come up and have a chat with us.
No problem. I always like to talk senior hockey, and my whole family's from Grand Falls, so my dad's side, and it's a place I'm very familiar with.
I want to start with that, actually. I want to go back and talk about early days of hockey. People here in Grand Falls, Windsor, know your dad. He grew up playing hockey here, played in the Jones Shield series that we were talking about a minute ago for St. Mike's, and then went on to play some pro hockey. His career had pretty much ended by the time Terry Jr. came along, but I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the relationship you had with your dad as a young fellow and his influence in getting you involved in the game of hockey.
Sure. Well, I think like anything, you look up to your father, growing up, or at least, you try to be a success. I think if you're a kid, it goes naturally to look at the biggest, male influence in your life. So I don't think it was any fluke that I gravitated towards hockey because my dad played pro. But by the time my earliest memories, he was done playing. His biggest thing was, get his schooling. I remember that was his thing when he left. His goal was to get his schooling paid for through hockey. Everything else was bonus. So I guess he always stressed that. So early in my life, Dad, there was a little bit of pressure on me in Mount Pearl too, because I developed early, in Adam and Pee Wee. I became one of the better known players, and having him have the career that he'd had. I'm not saying that I took it hard, but he, I think, didn't want to put pressure on me. So my own personal games, if I asked him to go, he would. But most of his influence when he coached the junior blades and the senior blades in the 80s, and I would get to go to the practices, and he'd let me skate with the team and collect pylons or whatever he needed done. But I was getting over 10 hours extra ice time a week, really. So that was the influence. And seeing how he coached, and then, when it became old enough to make my decisions as far as, like, to go to the WHL, I could look at his influence because I knew that he was, experienced in the field.
A lot of times people grow up with a parent who's had a level of success in the field, particular sports, feel the pressure to live up to that, or maybe the parent puts the pressure on the kid. Maybe, your dad did well with professional hockey, played in the WHA and the Minnesota Fighting Saints, but never really got to the big level and had a great career. Not to take anything away from him.
I know.
But sometimes
Exactly
I think, you never felt pressure from your dad to say, maybe you can surpass what I did, or maybe live out my dream for me?
No, I didn't. And I think it was just his whole approach to life. Like I said, my dad, growing up in Grand Falls, and he wasn't elite class or anything. He was middle class family, and he had 5 brothers and sisters. So Dad's goal was you fend for yourself and go, and his goal was to get his degree and get that paid for. Like, I look at my dad retired. He was one of the top scorers in the IHL. I have to think if he kept playing, in the WHA at the time, that he played 1 full year in the WHA, and it was being bred as brought along as the rival league to the NHL. So, and they gave him a better contract, and that was the whole thing. He was like he was saying, you don't know who's got your back. So I took the contract. So I think in his eyes when he first came back, I don't think he really regretted it, but I know a few years later when he looked back, he's aware of the fact that he could have kept playing, at least professionally. And like his buddy Jim Munch, who grew up with him played in Germany for a while, he could have at least done something like that. And I'm sure when he saw Donnie House and these guys go and play in the NHL, maybe in a way, I know it was never jealousy. He was never. Dad's really proud of players that have come up, but I think he as much lived through them as me. He's very proud of Grand Falls, of myself just going to play, and the fact that I made a career about it. How far you get, he's thrilled that I played in the NHL and he got to see me play a few games. It was always a bonus to how far you get once you've created a mark for yourself within the sport.
Okay, enough about your dad. Let's talk about you. When you came out of Mount Pearl, you went on, to play, all over the place, really. We'll kind of go through a little bit of that. But
yeah.
Some of your best success was with TriCity. You had a great career there. Talk about your years with TriCity a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. I went out, I played. I went to a tournament called the Vancouver Super Series when I was 14, and my dad coached that team. And that's kind of where it began, because we went out there, and TriCity promised me that the draft in the WHL is when you're 14. So I finished Pee Wee hockey here. It was that summer, and that was it. They convinced me they were going to take me. I moved out. I played junior at 14, which was a crazy move. I look back on it, and in my career, that was one of the things I'm proudest of, I guess. I led the team in scoring, and it just, only reason being the guys around me. I didn't have a point for 10 games. And, I remember my dad saying, stick with it. And, the guys on the team really, they didn't let anybody come at me. They stuck up for me. I learned from them so much. And, the top two scorers got injured. So I got so everything fell into place. TriCity drafted me from there, 3rd overall in the WHL. And it was, if there was one thing about TriCity, guys like myself and Damon Lankow and Sheldon Surrey and Brian Boucher, Yaroslav Spechkovsky, we had a lot of guys go to the NHL and have successful careers. They really stuck with you. They molded you along. They really made you feel like part of a family, and we put the 4 years I played junior. Kamloops won the Memorial Cup 3 years out of 4. Like, it's crazy to even think about how good Kamloops were, and they were in our division. So it wasn't like we were unsuccessful. If anything, so many people came to watch Kamloops that Damon Lankow and I ended up getting noticed. Quite more frequently. People would see us play because of that. So it was a great experience.
Well, that kind of leads into the next stage of your career, the thing you're probably best known for, the first round draft pick, which, of course, your book coming out this fall. We will talk about your book. I promise you, I give you a chance to talk about your book. Led to that first round draft pick. And at the time that you found out you were selected first overall by the Montreal Canadiens, or first pick for the Canadiens, how did you envision at that time? What was going through your mind? How's my life going to be now?
It was all a whirlwind, but leading up to that, I didn't think I was going to Montreal. There was 26 teams in the league, and I'd been interviewed by 23 or 24 of them actually, in some way. And right on the way to the draft, Doug Robinson put his arm around me and said, "Good year in the Western League. You had a lot of goals, a lot of penalty minutes." Then he said, "Good Memorial Cup." And I looked at my dad. I said, "Man," Dad said, "he thinks you're Shane Doan." So they didn't even know what I looked like. I mean it 15 minutes before the draft. And I talked to Boston, and I knew I had a good chance on going there. They told me that, I was a power forward. My favorite player was Cam Neely. I got an Irish name. All that stuff would have worked going to Boston. So I was really counting on that. But Montreal were my favorite team. But I just, I never envisioned it because they didn't talk to me. They didn't even know what I looked like. But I guess they went judged by stats, because 5 minutes before the draft, you'd see I got drafted. You'd see all the cameras come over on TSN and, from all over the world, and they were kind of in my face. So Dad looked at me and said, they probably got an inside scoop. And I went to Montreal, and it was great. I had, a lot of people, when they talk about my career in the NHL in Montreal, it's a negative thing. But look, I had a great time there. I got drafted by the Habs. I played some games. I think in the final year, my agent requested, not requested. He gave me some advice and said, you might be traded, and hold out of camp, and that happens. I thought I went down to Dallas. I ended up getting hurt, and things happen. But I have nothing against the Canadiens. It was a great time. I'm so proud when I go up into the Bell Center, and I see the big plaque outside with all the lists of the players who ever played there. And you count them, and there's less than 1,000. I think there's only 700. That really hits home then, and I got good relationships there. Most of the people in the organization, I didn't get along with Michel Therrien. I mentioned that in my book.
That's a little well-known.
That's well-known. Even he'd say the same thing, and I'm not saying that I don't right now respect him and hope that he goes on. People change, but at the time it was hard on me.
Decision with Subban
It's just it doesn't surprise me. You see,
there's no triple low 5 thing.
Look, I'm not big on that stuff, but in my own way, I was energetic and charismatic as well. I can understand where Subban is coming from, and I know that Tyrion doesn't like that. I could have told you that. That's what I didn't. I felt. I didn't have a chance to really spread my wings as a person there. I felt he was very much reminded me of a dictator. I don't mind saying that. I really was thrown off, and in every point at Tri-Cities, I would, I'd just be my own person. I'd, host the team fan club, TV show, all kinds of stuff. Guys, you got to be comfortable on and off the ice. I've always said that, and guys prepare differently. And when your coach tries to start, screwing with your personality, I think that's a bad thing. It's different if you come out and say ignorant things in interviews, but he's not doing that. He's out there and, maybe trying to channel his energy in a good way, and everybody up to this point thought it was good. Obviously, it gets the guys going, but that's only my opinion. But I'm a fan of just personality. Be yourself.
Well, Terry, you said you had no regrets about what happened after the draft and your time in Montreal. Talk about your book now. I said we'd talk about it.
Yeah.
You've got a book coming out this fall. The title is an interesting one: Tales of a First Round Nothing. Now, it's a bit self-deprecating. I suspect there may be some humor in there. But is there it almost sounds there may be a sense of melancholy in there as well about what could have been when you say Tales of a First Round Nothing. Is it both sides?
I can see
coming
that
out in the book.
Maybe subconsciously. The reason it's Tales of a First Round Nothing, I'll tell you. I wanted it, like you said, half self-deprecating in a way of, I came back to Newfoundland. The other thing, there's a magnifying glass on me. It's not like I'm from Toronto, so I get asked all the time, probably 10 times a week, what happened or what went wrong. It's usually framed negatively, and even if it's unintentional by the person who's asking me the question. So, and I really always answer it was a great time. Obviously at the time I was affected. It bothered me, as anybody wants to get ahead. But, I really do look at the stories I tell are really positive ones. And I was, when I grew up, I would read, not probably a half hour a night I would read. And my favorite at the time, it was Judy Blume. She had a book called Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. And I really, that was the name of the book. And it was, it might even have been a girl's book. I don't know. I was in grade 2 or 3, and I loved the book. And I think the kid's name was Super Fudge. And it was just a guy that had a lot of stories, a young kid that, beat the streets, and people kind of misunderstood him, but he was a good guy. Maybe subconsciously I put myself there as a kid. I don't know. But that's kind of, I know if it wasn't for that title, I never would have picked it. So the way that Judy Blume might frame that for a kid is kind of where I was coming from. But I can see how you would say there would be a feeling of melancholy, and maybe that does come out at times subconsciously because, life is life. And reality is, if I played my cards different, I would have at least played, at least a little longer. I can't say how much, but, that is it. The other thing is when I think I would have got my chance somewhere. I got injured. I hurt my ankle, and I can't really do anything about that. I love playing, so I still do, but, it's a pale comparison to when I drafted 8th in the world. I mean, it's probably noticeable, but that's it. I love playing.
So what can people expect when they pick up the book? What's going to be in it?
It's not so much an autobiography. It's stories in chronological order. So I guess you could say it's the story of my life, but it's not really. It's up to a point. The story of the hockey part of my life. It would be, I put them in order, but I don't think there's much. Each one doesn't need much explanation. They're fun stories. I tell a few senior hockey stories. Each one might have a punchline at the end, that are woven together with, basically stories about my buddies. I talk about friends. A lot of friends that, I think at this point I'm 36, so part of my identity is borrowing off everybody, all the leaders I've had on all the teams and all the fans that I've met. So I think it's a story about where I am today as a result of the experiences I've had. It's not necessarily... I was born in 1977, in St. John's, Newfoundland, and it doesn't talk about, I don't even think I mentioned my statistics at any point.
Do you know exactly when it's coming out yet?
I do. It's with ECW Publishing. It's coming out in October 2013.
And available where? People
October this year. It'll be available, I assume most bookstores. I'm an author, I guess, but I really still feel odd saying that. And most of the people, that are involved, that have books coming out at the same time. They sent. I don't know how this all works, but they sent me an agenda, and there's an agenda follow in April. There's a pre-release coming out to a bunch of media outlets. If they want to carry it, they can. I assume in Newfoundland, bookstores would probably be smart to carry it. I know there's there's hockey fans. I'm hoping to sell some, so I want to work with these places.
Sure.
But I don't know. The way I'm led to believe, it's going to be in a lot of mainstream places, and it's ECW out of Toronto. So if they want to protect their interests, I guess it'll be I wanted to get out there to the maximum places. I'm going to take it to senior hockey rinks, do some promotion. It's not so much even, no one's going to get rich off of this either. If you want to look at the numbers, that's not, it's impossible. Trust me. I didn't write it for that reason. I wanted to, as the stories went, you know how it started was, George was my dad basically encouraged me, and my mother encouraged me to keep a journal when I played. So that's what it is. It's journal entries that over the years I had so many of them, and I've got people in the right places that I know, like Ron McLean and Ian Mendez and these guys that heard of it. So it's really right place, right time. I'm not a great author or anything, but I think that hockey fan would like it. But it's a humble approach to a great game, really. That's with sewn together by experiences in my own life.
Well, best of luck with that, Terry. In a few minutes we've got left, I want to move on from the Montreal days and professional hockey. After that, you kind of beat around in the alphabet soup of senior hockey: ECHL, AHL, IHL, WCHL, ABCD, et cetera,
all over
et cetera.
the place.
You found your way back to Newfoundland in around 2002. Came back Newfoundland senior hockey, played with Cornerbrook Royals, Mount Pearl Blades. Now, of course, with the Conception Bay CB Stars. What motivates you to keep doing this, Terry?
I think there's a lot of things. I think it's therapeutic in a way because, like we talked about, my career. It wasn't only that my NHL hopes stopped. It was that when I first hurt my ankle, I couldn't really even walk the same for a year. And I don't mean I was limping around, but it hurt. It hurt. So I never thought I'd play again. And that was the thing. Like anything that I've done in my life, in some way is indirectly I owe to hockey. So it was real hard to have that separation out of all of a sudden I wasn't playing. I mean, I put on a lot of weight. I put on 50 pounds. I guess maybe that was subconscious. I don't think at any point I was ever depressed, but something was missing. I needed something to fill the void. And, then senior hockey started really coming on the map when to me, it was Todd Gillingham and Darren Colburn I'd known from playing pro. And then they started playing, and I remember it went from Fenian Gardens and to Mile 1. And I was kind of around that time, and I said, it's worth playing. And every year, right up until now, it keeps getting better every year. And I get older. But, I love playing, and it really is at this point. For the fans that don't know, I'm telling you, I played a lot of hockey. This is pro hockey. The only thing, maybe guys aren't in quite as good a shape as guys in the Central League but there's pro hockey, the Southern Professional Hockey League. These are pro hockey leagues. Guys like Chris Peach will tell you, he played down there. I played down in these leagues. This now is a great, we wouldn't even qualify for a lot of them because we had too many veterans. In some of these leagues, you can only have 3 or 4 guys that have played 200 games pro. And I think we've got, that on our team and the CBs or more. So, we're in 5th place out of 5. So it tells you how good the league is. And, I really knew it. I went for 1 year. I needed to scratch the itch some way, and I couldn't really play enough games in a season. That's one of the things with my ankle. To play pro. So I wanted to go in Europe, and I couldn't really do that. I went to Bentley, played for the Bentley Generals, and we went to the Allen Cup final. We won the, Alberta version of the Herder. It was a great experience. And, when I was there, the first thing I did was call Wally Fitzpatrick. I said, we can play in this, and Newfoundland can win it. And I'm telling you. And the team I played for in Bentley was 12 guys that had played in the NHL. I'm telling you, it's on a level, it's the same. If we practice every day like they do down there, because the talent level is the same, I think most guys that come back will say it. So it's not only am I addicted to the, playing hockey and feeding off the energy that the crowd and the players bring. It's that the fact that I'm proud to be playing in the league and be talented enough, or, it's the wrong way to put it, I guess, but I can still cut it in this league at 36, and I guess being injured and on the outside looking in for a while in my early career, I appreciate the fact that I can still play, and I think a lot of guys feel the same. The league is the best senior hockey league in Canada, and I'm not being biased when I'm saying that.
Well, we think so, too. We always praise the quality of hockey here. We think it's great entertainment for the dollar for the fans, and we encourage people to get out and watch the games. Terry, I wish we had more time to talk about senior hockey. I mean, there's so much to talk about with what you've gone through your career. Appreciate the time coming and talk to us. Terry Ryan, his book coming out this fall, Tales of a First Round Nothing. Make sure you pick it up when it comes out. Terry, again, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay. That'll do it for another edition of the Cataracts Digest. I'm Cataracts broadcaster George Scott. We'll see you at the rink. You got to do the point, Terry.